Colonial Nigeria 1400 to 1856. Before the British arrived in what is now Nigeria, there were several vast and prosperous kingdoms and empires with unique administrative, economic, and social context, as well as a rich cultural history. However, one consistent, troubling aspect was the ongoing civil conflict for the ancestral origin of the Yoruba flourished between the 11th and the 15th centuries, emerged as a major power in the forested areas west of the present-day Nigeria. Oyo, founded in the 14th century and located in the savannah to the north of the forest, gradually supplanted the older kingdom of Ife. After more than a century of struggle with nearby Borgo and Nupe, it established itself strategically as the emporium for exchanging goods from the north.
In this session, we are discussing the Nigerian project as a nation and how Nigeria has transited from colonial, the military rule, the republics we've had, and to the present-day civilian government we are running in Nigeria. With me here is our doctor, Professor Dr. Ridwan Adeyemi House. He's going to take us through how Nigeria has been able to metamorphose from all this strength.
So, my first question, Doctor, is how did the British take over Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. The Nigerian project, before it came on as a nation, was taken over by the British. But before then, we had an history of pre-colonial era. We had a pre-colonial era. Actually, this actually started when the slave trade was established. Before that area, there was a slave trade, which of course is a global phenomenon. I mean, it was going all around all over the world. And at the point in time, it was stopped. And they used it as a pretext, to penetrate Nigeria. We remember vividly, that was one of the reasons why they deposed the Oba of Lagos, because they accused him of still engaging in slave trade after it has been banned. So through that, they deposed him and installed another one who was more favorable to their own dispensation. So now what the British actually came with force. They used machinery, trade, and also force. Because we had it on history that so that there was resistance when they came, both from the north and the west and the south. They resisted them, but they used force and diplomacy to take them over. In the south, it was the southern western area, it was the indirect system, and in the north it was indirect system, and also in the south they used the chiefs, just as they used the emirs in the north.
How the British penetrated and dominated in Nigeria. The British came around the place now known and called Nigeria in the early 19th century, the 1840s upward, first as European traders and missionaries, who at the time were studying the environment for them to study the weaknesses in the indigenous people, and as such devised a means penetrating and dominating the people of the present-day Nigeria. The Sokoto Jihad and the Yoruba Wars stimulated the slave trade at the time when the British were actively trying to stop it. Slaves formerly had been traded for European goods, especially guns and gunpowder, but now the British encouraged trade in palm oil in the Niger Delta states, ostensibly to replace the trade in slaves. They later discovered that the demand for palm oil was in fact stimulating an internal slave trade because slaves were largely responsible for collecting palm fruits, manufacturing palm oil, and transporting it to the coast, whether by canoe or by human porterage. The palm oil trade was also linked to the Sokoto Jihad and the Yoruba Wars because many warriors recognized the importance of slaves not only as soldiers and producers of food to feed soldiers, but additionally as producers of palm oil to trade for European guns and other goods. Many of the slaves exported in the 1820s and 30s were intercepted by the ships of the Royal Navy, emancipated and deposited in Sierra Leone under the missionary tutelage. Some of them began to migrate back from Sierra Leone in search of home and trade. These freed slaves invited missionaries to follow them and, in the 1840s, made themselves available as agents who allowed missionaries and British traders to gain access to such places such as Lagos, Abeokuta, Calabar, Lokoja, Onitsha, Brass, and Bonny. Due to the secret continuation of slavery by the Lagos royalty, the British shelled Lagos in 1851, expelled Kosoko, the reigning Oba, and restored his uncle Akitoye, who appeared more willingly to join the campaign to abolish the slave trade. Later in 1861, the British annexed Lagos in order to protect Akitoye's son and successor, foiled Kosoko's bid to return, and secure a base for further activities. The British used the missionaries extensively to penetrate the southern Nigeria. The various active missionaries outlets were Presbyterians in Calabar and the Church Missionary Society, CMS, Methodists and Baptists in Lagos, Abeokuta, Ibadan, Oyo, and Ogbomosho. The CMS pioneered trade on the Niger by encouraging Scottish explorer and merchant MacGregor Laird to run a monthly steamboat, which provided transportation for missionary agents and Sierra Leonean traders going up the Niger. In this way, Bishop Samuel Ajayi Crowther, born in the Yoruba inhabited area of Oshogbo and the first African ordained by the CMS, was able to establish mission stations at Onitsha, Lokoja, Egon, and later at Brass and Bonny. George Dashwood Goldie, a British businessman, bought out all French rivals and created the Royal Niger Company, chartered in 1886 to control trade on the Niger and administer the immense territories of the Sokoto Caliphate and the Borno. In addition, two other protectorates were declared, one over the oil rivers and the other over the hinterland of Lagos, to establish and claim that these areas were also British sphere of interest. In the north, Frederick Lord Lugard, the first High Commissioner of Northern Nigeria, was instrumental in subjugating the Fulani emirs. Some were deposed, some were defeated in battle, and others collaborated. By 1903, the conquest of the Emirates was complete.
Okay, for me, I wasn't existing during colonial era. Neither was I existing in the 1940s or the 1950s. But we've heard histories, we've heard stories where stories. Our ancestors, our parents, and our grandparents keep telling us stories about how it was before and how it is now. And for me, I feel Nigeria. Let me start with development. I feel Nigerian development has been quite slow. The progress has not really been going as smooth as we would have expected it to go. Looking at where we're coming from, so some places, like some of the stories I heard was that some of these things we have now started from the colonial eras. Some of our major roads, these guys started a lot of these things. And when they leave, we were expecting to have more. We're expecting that since power had moved to the hands of Nigerians, things will move very fast. But like I always tell people, I used to tell people that we are dependent in independent, whereby we still depend on the white for almost everything we need. That's why it's affected our growth and our development.
First military regimes, 1966 to 1979, Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi. In the year 1924, Major General Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi was born in Abia State. He was given the name Johnson when he moved in with his sister and her husband, a Sierra Leonean, who functioned as a father figure to him. After Nigeria's first coup, led by Lieutenant Colonel Kaduna Nziogua, Aguiyi Ironsi took control of Lagos, Nigeria's then capital, on January 16, 1966, leading one of Nigeria's non-democratic history's shortest military tenures. During this time, he drafted the contentious Decree No. 34, which converted Nigeria from a federation to a unitary state. Despite being a patriotic deed, this order is considered to have further solidified the North's distrust of the Igbo, following the so-called Igbo coup of 1966. The edict was interpreted by the northern elite as an attempt to strip areas of their power and impose southern rule on them. The rule of Aguiyi Ironsi was tense, and ethnic differences in Nigeria's newly independent states were exacerbated. In the July 1966 counter-coup in Ibadan, Major General Ironsi and Major Adekunle Fajuyi were assassinated by Northern Army commanders. The Biafran War would subsequently erupt from the mounting disintegration that occurred throughout the administration. Yakubu Gowon. Following the deadly counter-coup in July, General Yakubu Gowon became Nigeria's youngest president. Despite having no inclination for politics when he began his military career, he is known for his statesmanship and presidency of Nigeria throughout the Civil War. Gowon, also known as Jack, was born in Plateau State to missionary parents. He grew up in Zaria before joining the Nigerian Army in 1954 and later attending the Sandhurst Military Academy in the United Kingdom. Leading up to the war, Gowon had met Odumegu Ojukwu in Aburi, Ghana, to check plans of severance. The assembly, yielding no natural product, preempted the war that came to the Nigerian shores. Gowon decided in any case to preserve Nigeria's solidarity, made strategic moves to weaken the Biafran cause, making 12 states and attaching the oil-wealthy South-South in 1967. With a rising passion tolls, destitution and horribleness constrained Biafra to its yield in 1970. Murtala Muhammad. Deemed a charismatic pioneer by numerous, Murtala Muhammad was the third military head of state in Nigeria, leading Nigeria after the upset that toppled Gowon. His administration was prevalent for stripping the Nigerian press and media of autonomous rights and building up a military-controlled press. Murtala is said to have masterminded the move of Nigeria's capital from Lagos to Abuja. Like numerous other northern officers of the time who would rise to political unmistakable quality, he played a part within the overthrows of the 60s. Basically within the July counter-overthrow that seen the passing of Aguiyi Ironsi. He was too the common officer commanding of the Army's Moment Division amid the Gracious War. Superintending the 1967 Asaba massacre of Biafran detainees of war, Muhammad was killed in his dark Mercedes on his way to work by troopers within the failed overthrow driven by Lieutenant Colonel Dimka.
Let's say from 1966, from 1960 to 66, we had the First Republic, which ended up in the assassination of Tafawa Balewa and Ahmadu Bello by Ezogu, by the Eastern elements. Actually, they came to, they disrupted the First Republic, you know, because they felt that they were not having their due share in the coalition. So they, for one reason or the other, they had to terminate the rule. Then after led by Ezogu conducted a coup, and there was a counter coup led by Aguiyi, also is an Easterner also. So when they asked him to try Ezogu, he refused, he was reluctant, and at that time there was a counter coup by the northern elements also, led by Murtala Muhammad. Then after that, I mean the counter coup pushed Aguiyi away. But one thing that is important we need to know was that Aguiyi was the one that actually disrupted the federalism structure of Nigeria, because he was the one that centralized Nigeria. I mean, ab initio in 1954-57, we had, I mean, the regions had, freedom. But he was the one, he destroyed the federal structure by centralizing everything to be one, using the military command system. And that is the problem we are still facing up to today. Because if we had our regions working independently and contribute to a weak center, it would have been better for us. Just like, I mean, UK is done in UK. They have a loose center, and each of the contributing organs are very strong. They make their laws, they make their things, I mean, as it suits their environment. So he had that problem, and that problem he caused, which is what we are seeing today. Because all the resources is centralized in the center, and the constituent bodies are not really having what issue. What getting it. Right, because there's a lot of resources. So the point is, both the military came in. They having at loggerheads, even on each other's throat, and you find out that from 1966 when they took over, Agudosi took over. Gowon came in 1977 after the counter coup. Gowon took it up to 1975 when he was overthrown by Murtala Muhammad. When he was also assassinated in 1975-76, they took over from him also. Obasanjo took over from Murtala. Murtala took over to 79. He handed over to the civilian in 1979. We had another experiment, the Second Republic. So we had Aguiyi-Ironsi, we had Ezeogu, Aguiyi-Ironsi, Gowon, and Murtala. There are 4 regimes within the military.
Second Republic, 1979 to 1983. The welfare development and governance within the period of Second Republic from 1979 to 1983 in Nigeria. The capital was Abuja. The name of government then was called the Federal Presidential Republic, and the president was President Shehu Shagari, and vice president was Alex Ifeanyi Ekwueme. A stable and effective civilian government emerged and designed to address the fundamental issues, which were historically divisive, and to establish a new political institution and orientations. Most issues that were a threat to stability and survival of the federation was addressed. The revenue allocation process was alerted based on the recommendation of a technical committee. A new Constitution Drafting Committee (CDC) was also appointed in 1965 under the chairmanship of a leading lawyer called Rotimi Williams in 1979. Political parties were formed, and new corrective nation bodies such as the Code of Conduct Bureau, Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, and Public Complaints Commission were established. At the inauguration of the CDC, Murtala Muhammad outlined the objectives of transition of federal system of government with constitutional law guaranteeing fundamental human rights, maximum participation with orderly success to political power, to not let what happened in the First Republic. The new constitution was designed to eliminate competition based on a system of winner takes or get the set, and eliminate over-centralization of power and ensure free and fair elections. In addition, an independent judiciary was to be established as well as corrective institutions. More states were created. Determination of an age limit for participating in politics to eliminate most discredited politicians who had actively participated in politics in the First Republic. The FEDECO declared Shagari as the winner, and there was a strong anti-NPN, anti-Shagari in several states that was controlled by other parties. The Second Republic is replete with inter-party and intra-party schemes and federal state conflicts. (1983 to 1999). The second military regimes came to be through a coup, and Buhari, he justified his coup and subsequent actions by citing the troubles of the Second Republic and the declining economy. The regime declared a war against indiscipline that led to the arrest, detention, and jailing of some politicians. The why was later extended to journalists and others not responsible for the social decay and economic problems. The government's popularity began to wane. General Ibrahim Babangida got into power with a bloodied coup. In August 1985, he released political detainees and promised that public opinion would influence his decisions with Armed Forces Ruling Council. The public demanded an end to military rule. He supported a return of civilian government but worked to undermine the process to remain in power. Everything was ruled by the military government. The government created two political parties, the Social Democratic Party and the National Republican Convention, and gave the agendas for them. Freely formed parties were not registered. He voided presidential primary elections held in 1992, and all the candidates were banned from politics. Another pro-government was held between Chief MKO Abiola of the SDP and Alhaji Bashir Tofa of the NRC. Babangida's government believed that the elections will not hold, but it did, and it was a free, fair and peaceful election, which Chief Abiola won, but Babangida announced the results before they became official, and it turned out to be a serious miscalculation that forced him out of power in August 1993. The military government did not favor the Nigeria people.
So, Prof, how will you compare the military and civilian regimes?
But by and large, when you look at the military and the civilians, I will say that none of them has actually paid us. I mean, they've not, none of these regimes as a whole have not actually satisfied the yearnings of Nigerians. If you look, let's say from 1966, from 1960 to 66, we had the First Republic, which ended up in the assassination of Tafawa Balewa and Ahmadu Bello by Nzogu, by the Eastern elements. Actually, they came to, they disrupted the First Republic, because they felt that they were not having their due share in the coalition. So they, for one reason or the other, they had to terminate the rule. Then after, led by Nzogu conducted a coup, and there was a counter coup led by Aguiyi, also is an Easterner also. So when they asked him to try Nzogu, he refused. He was reluctant, and at that time there was a counter coup by the northern elements also, led by Murtala Muhammad. Then after that, I mean the counter coup pushed Aguiyi away. But one thing that is important we need to know was that Aguiyi was the one that actually disrupted the federalism structure of Nigeria, because he was the one that centralized Nigeria. I mean, Ab initio in 1954-57, we had, the regions had, freedom. But he was the one, he destroyed the federal structure by centralizing everything to be one, using the military command system. And that is the problem we are still facing up to today. Because if we had our regions working independently and contribute to a weak center, it would have been better for us. Just like, UK is done in UK. They have a loose center, and each of the contributing organs are very strong. They make their laws, they make their things, as it suits their environment. So he had that problem, and that problem he caused, which is what we are seeing today. Because all the resources is centralized in the center, and the constituent bodies are not really having getting it right, because there's a lot of resources. So the point is, both the military came in, they having at loggerheads, even on each other's throat, and you find out that from 1966, when they took over, Aguiyi took over, Gowon came in 1977 after the counter coup. Gowon took it up to 1975 when he was overthrown by Murtala Muhammad. When he was assassinated in 1975-76, they took over from him also. Obasanjo took over from Murtala. Murtala took over to 1979. He handed over to the civilian in 1979. We had another experiment, that was Second Republic. So we had Aguiyi, we had Nzogu, Aguiyi, Gowon, and Murtala. That 4 regimes within the military. And in 1979, we were back to Second Republic. At that time also, what did we have? Well, we thought it would be better when it came up, but between MPN at the center, MPP and AG, and Unity Party of Nigeria, GMPP in the northeast. That was then. So Nigerians have not actually had the best of times as far as governance is concerned. But if you take it all together, if you look at the number of years they have ruled, we are now 62 years. They've almost ruled us for the same number of years. If you look about 30. And yet, where are we? But it's important to point out that at least when we had before 1980, we had things better than what it is. I mean, most times when these people came, both the military and the political leaders, it's only during the First Republic that you can say, well, we had something, a resemblance of a commitment to the state, commitment to service. But thereafter, from 1979 down up to the present regime, we have little to show for what efforts and resources we have. We have little to show for it. So when you compare the military and civilian regime, Nigerians are yet to have their best. In fact, what we have had is little compared to the expectations of Nigerians. And we believe that this nation is a great nation. So we need a new set of rulers who will be committed to servicing the people, to service the people, to commitment to welfare, commitment to building the nation, for us to all have it well and sweet. Look at the military and the civilians. I will say that none of them has actually paid us. I mean, they've not. None of these regimes, as a whole, have not actually satisfied the yearnings of Nigerians.
I think we started small during the colonial era, and then we have metamorphosed into a bigger entity. Along the way, we have developed. Even though they call us developing countries, I think we are more than developing. If you look at different areas of endeavor in Nigeria, we have grown. Our education system has improved. The commerce has improved. Our economy improved. And even governance, we began to adhere towards democracy, which is the best structure the world over, that is being adopted the world over. But I think it behooves me to also note that along the line, it does seem that some of the achievements that we have made are beginning to have cracks. You know, today we are talking about something that we own in our country, something like fuel, and all of a sudden we don't have fuel because our refineries have some problems, and sometimes you find out that the education has issues, like there's the ASU strike going on. But all these are challenges. Every country experiences challenges, and we hope for the best. It's just a matter of focusing on these issues that are challenges and problems and addressing them. Because if you go the world over, we also hold our own. Sometimes our students are the best in sports, the best in education at an international level. So which means we have the capacity, we have the capability to do well. We just need to maybe improve our governance structure, improve the values that our people have and their attitude to the different things that they do. Otherwise, we have a long shot, we have hope. And this hope has to be engineered by individuals who understand what governance is all about.
Nigeria had been colonized long before it was even Nigeria. Then that was when the colonial masters came and forcefully occupied Nigeria and then even took some slaves. Then we finally got our amalgamation in 1914. Then fast forward to independence in 1960, which then brought about the military rule. Some of the military leaders were like Babangida, and even Buhari was a military ruler at some point. And before we were even able to get our independence, there was a lot of struggle with the colonial government by some nationalists like Obafemi Awolowo, so they really fought for Nigeria to gain its independence. So after the military regime, then there was no election, no nothing. Then now we're currently in the democracy rule. So now we have the ability to elect our leaders every 4 years. Some democratic leaders we've had are Obasanjo, Yaradua, President Jonathan, former President Jonathan, and even now, President Buhari is the current president of Nigeria, and he was also a former military president.
My question is, from 1999 till date, what are the gains and losses of the civilian government in Nigeria?
The gains and losses of civilian government. That's interesting. Well, since 1999 to date, that's about, we have had, this is the fourth regime. I mean, Obasanjo did 2 regimes for 4 years, 8 years. Yar'Adua and Jonathan did 6 years. Then that is 6 plus 8, that is 14 years. Then another 7 years, another 21 years. I mean, you know.
The very long way.
While they are taking over this second regime, let's take it one by one. During the Obasanjo regime, what were our gains? What were our gains? And what did we lose? Well, I mean, it's a very good question, but it's very difficult to answer. But of course, not difficult, because you can only measure our gains through what actually our people benefited. If you look at their pains, I mean, we ask ourselves, what did our pains actually reduce during the Obasanjo regime? How many times did they increase, I mean, the price of fuel? Severally. What did we gain from it? Pains. That government promised us light. Where is the light? 16 billion naira. Where is the light for 8 years? Where is the light? Yes, roads to some extent. Well, roads, they did, I mean, they said they were going to do so many, but what was the percentage of the roads they did? So many empty promises. So we will say that we have only gained little from that 8 years.
The appreciation goes to you, Professor, for taking us, Professor Dr. Ridwan, for taking us through this long journey of the explanation, sharing with us from your wealth of experience, from the colonial rule, the military rule, the civilian rule, and where we are today. It is all about Nigeria yesterday, Nigeria today, and the Nigeria we are looking at in the future. Yes, this Nigerian project is a great project everybody should look forward to. It is our country, it is the flag we fly everywhere, it is our passport that we show everywhere. And this should not be only applied to only Nigerians that are in Nigeria. We are also talking about the Nigerians in diaspora. How do we present ourselves to our counterparts over there? How will Nigeria be seen globally, in terms of governance, welfare, development, and how we are going to move forward in life? Every government, every country in the whole world is looking forward to development. It's looking forward to get, more better in future, and is looking forward to use their younger people to get the better of the country. And I hope Nigeria, we pray Nigeria of our own, our great Nigeria, the giant of Africa, we'll get there one day. We're still in the process, and we hope that we get it all right together one day, soon and better.